I want to talk about, I think one of our biggest successes, and before I go into successes, anything and everything that we've done in Renton, I'm really proud of, but it's one tiny step. It's something that we have to continue to work on. And, it's just taking that step forward. It's a work in progress. So I want to say that up front. But one of the things I'm most proud of is what we now call the Mayor's Inclusion Task Force. For many years, we had this group that we created called the Community Liaison Group. And this is really a group of people, right now we have 36 members, who represent the diversity in our community. Some of them are known leaders in organizations that they represent, and some are just folks that people love, that people know. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a question that's going to come up. How did you find this group? How did you cultivate the group? And I can spend a lot of time on that. I will give a quick answer here, which is every city, every organization has community groups. They do not follow the geographic boundaries of government that we do. But they do have community groups. It may be around religious practices. It may be around, teaching language to their kids. It may be around issues like, rights and the gay lesbian community or seniors. So it's really about you finding a way to spend time and cultivate relationships with these groups. The way I did it, I did touch on some communities that I knew about, but then I got an AmeriCorps volunteer. And if some of you have worked with the AmeriCorps program, it's gold. You can get someone there dedicated who wants to work with you. And so I had this AmeriCorps volunteer, and her job was to attend festivals. Go today to the Sikh festival, and tomorrow to the Japanese Community Festival. And she was there and attending the different celebrations and getting to know the community and coming back to me and saying, Preeti, I'll set up a meeting for you with Julio. So that's kind of the backstory of this group. And here's a snapshot of who the current members are. And the work that we've been doing with this group has been amazing. Right now, the mayor actually appointed them. He set up a charter. So again, you've got the buy-off right from the top. They feel empowered because they are our liaisons, whether it's sharing messages and information or representing the needs of the community. The last couple of years, for the first time in the history of our city, we've had members from the task force serve on the Budget Advisory Committee. This is a group that provides input as we shape the city's budget, on the Pro Parks Planning Commission, and so on and so forth. So it's involvement, providing input, but it's also, being our tools. And it's also about what's important to you. What do you want? What is, how would you like to really vocalize the issues that come up in your communities? And so interestingly, towards the end of last year, one of the things the group said to us was, it's also about learning from each other, because it's not one size fits all in any way. It's not just language or ethnicity. The needs of the different communities are as different as really a United Nations. And so they said, learning from each other is something that we love to do. So how about we change our December meeting into a multicultural social? So they took this on. We provided the place and we helped, a little bit of facilitation, but this was a celebration that the group took on. And one of the rules that they made was they were going to bring members of their community for this social, and not everybody from the same community could sit at the same table. You pretty much had, they had this, you had to draw from and choose a number and then sit at the table assigned to you. And that was a way to facilitate members of their community to learn from each other. So, obviously, what makes an event great? Food and entertainment, right? They brought that. It was a potluck. I won't show you the whole video, but I'll show you just a little bit of it. But, So this is a Filipino dance. I can stop it. I just wanted to get to I can make this a vicarious multicultural event for us. The other thing, and it's not just about celebration and fun, but another very important strategy that we've undertaken in Renton is to, in addition to the group that represents all the different cultural communities, we've also been working one-on-one with certain community leaders and members. And one of them is the Renton African American Pastors Group. They came up with the acronym RAP, the group did. And this is really important because, we've seen what's happened around the country the last few years. And the big headline that comes up every time, especially when you're dealing closely with law enforcement, is, can Ferguson happen here? And, that's a question that nobody wants to ask, but it's a question that's definitely something that's prevalent. And I still don't know the answer to that, but what I do know is that we've taken very proactive steps to build connections with members, specifically with the clergy and the faith-based communities, so that we work together. They communicate. It's the police chief and his command force, members of the group called the Renton African American. So they pretty much represent the major churches in our community with large African American community groups, myself, the chief administrative officer, and other staff, and we meet on a monthly basis. Today, I'm missing the meeting. To really talk about issues, to create opportunities where the community and the police meet up, specifically targeting youth. We've had 6 forums so far, some of them at churches, one at a high school, some at the community center. And they've not been just about food and entertainment. Yes, we had the K9, so we had something to bring the families in. But they've really been about asking tough questions and answering those questions. When we had a teenager who said, when we have something going on, why do 7 officers show up rather than 1? Why are you guys targeting us? What's your policy? And so having those open dialogues so the police can say, here's what we do, here's why we do it. We want you to know us. We want to be walking around so that you know who we are, so we can build those relationships. We're doing the same with the Latino community. We've had a couple meetings. We haven't gone as far as having the community forums yet, but that's in the plan. This is the same thing I talked to you about. Just pictures of this was the one in the high school. Access, language. How many of you are aware of the language line or have used it? So I see a few hands here. I think many years ago it used to be called the AT&T line. and now it's called the language line. Definitely organizations such as courts, hospitals, police departments will have access to it. So this is one thing we instituted. Our police department had it. Nobody knew except the person who knew about it, that there's something called the language line. Similarly with the courts. So one of the things we did was to talk to the language line and make this something centralized and available everywhere throughout the organization and have the community know about it. Essentially, what it does is it gives you a code. So if you get either a call, or if it's a front office, you can have a phone with the dual handset. So someone walks in with a limited English speaking abilities and wants simultaneous translation or interpretation, you can make it happen. It's just dial a number, and the person can point at a poster and say Spanish or whichever language, and it's a three-way call. And that poster is great. We've got it everywhere. I wouldn't have known what the poster said except it had Hindi, and I can read Hindi, so.